Hello everyone, it's Christine here and I'm thrilled to be back with a Christmas crafting video for you. Now this is a super easy idea. It's a scrap busting idea. It's adaptable. It's even got a no-sew version using just Yoo-hoo glue or fabric glue. But otherwise it has lots of possibilities for doing some slow stitching detail onto it like these ones here. And it's basically a fabric star that can be both a hanging decoration with lovely detail on both sides, or used as a coaster or mug rug or whatever you would like for somewhere to rest your cup or your drink. And I think they'd make lovely Christmas gifts. And I like the fact that if you make them not in expressly Christmas fabrics, they could be used all year round as well. Or you can make them a bit more Christmassy by incorporating some of your Christmas scraps of fabric. So we'll make one today that's not expressly Christmas, but using some of the sort of Christmas tones. But equally, you could make them for other times of year because I think they're a lovely little gift for the stars in your life, the people that brighten up your world. So I'll show you how they come together from a very simple template, and I'll share a link to this Pentagon template in the description below this video. You can also search on Pentagon yourself, and they'll come up if you search on Pentagon free template. When I typed Pentagon in, I got the Pentagon in the US. So if you want the actual Pentagon shape, type Pentagon outline or Pentagon free template. And then I printed it out onto a piece of paper. And so it's about 8.5 centimetres along one side if you're wanting to get something similar sized to mine. And I'll also show you how you can make a nifty little centre template just using a piece of old paper or recycled paper to work out where you need to put your folds to get the nice star shape, because that's the only other slightly, not really tricky at all, but it helps to have a template. So all you need is 2 bits of scrap fabric and some threads and Yoo-hoo glue, or you could not use the Yoo-hoo glue and just use your iron in between to do the folding, but I'll show you the Yoo-hoo glue method. Now I'm going to need to grab a piece of card, and I was thinking that I had, there's a book. Let's put a book under here. This was a gift from a friend at work who got it from the op shop. So, my template that I made, I printed out my Pentagon, and then I used just the cover of an old binding folder, which is like a plastic, stuck it down onto that and then cut around it. So I've got a nice, robust plastic template to use now. And at this point, you don't even have to keep you might find that because with the Yoo-hoo glue, it doesn't form a super, super strong bond on this. You can just take your paper off it. And just keep your template. I'll be putting this with my other Epiflex templates, but this is a homemade template. And in fact, I was just thinking I probably should be actually doing this marking on the front of it, because it just makes it a bit easier when we fold it. So I'm just going to quickly flip it over and do the marking on the front. Let's see if I can. Probably doesn't really matter because we can't see it coming through anyway. So we'll just redo the markings. So yeah, do your markings onto the front of your fabric, and I'm using a friction marker for this, which is erasable with heat. But we're going to be kind of folding these bits under anyway, so it's not a problem. And then we're going to cut around outside of the line, so leaving probably like a 1 centimetre. You can leave slightly more if you want, slightly less, but basically we're going to be folding it over, and this will just help us to affix it. That one I'll just trim down a smidgeroo. Right. So now is where I will use an old catalogue as my little glue base. It's been quite hot weather here, so I've picked up out a new glue stick today because my other one was getting a little bit sticky-ish. So ignore this marking that I had done on the back. I'm lining it up and actually folding it over on that marking that I did at the front, so that the marking is just down along where the fold is basically. And because the friction marker erases with heat, I mean, you can barely see it on the edge there anyway, but that will all come off. And so I'm putting a bit of my Yoo-hoo glue, and Yoo-hoo glue is acid free, so it's not going to be a problem for the fabric. But again, if you wanted to do this step and iron it, you could actually have your template in the middle of your fabric and then fold it over and iron. You just want to use something that isn't going to sort of melt with the iron. I haven't tested this because I prefer to use the Yoo-hoo glue method, but I guess you could use a piece of card or something like that. So again, I'm lining it up with the markings I made on the front, not the ones I made on the back. And so I'm just working my way around, putting, I don't want too much glue, so I'll just ease that bit of glue off. And out. Okay, so that's that bit done. Now I might just quickly give it a quick iron. I've got my iron here. Hopefully I can get it to bend around. I won't do a big ironing job but I do have my little quilt down and it's an old table underneath, so that will be fine. And then we'll repeat that on the other piece as well. So this time we'll remember to do the front, Christine. I don't know, it sort of always seems a bit like you're a bit to always do things on the back, but in this case for the folding it definitely makes it easier if it's on the front. So again, we trim around. Good to have nice sharp scissors. I hope you're having a great day too. It's Sunday here. We had a lovely, well, it's been quite a rainy, it was very hot, 37 degrees Celsius yesterday, so very hot day, northerly wind, and then today it's been a rainy day, but the rain let up enough that we were able to take Travis out into the Dandenong Ranges to a nice dog park that he likes there, so we went there, and then we just went to a little cafe where we'd been to the restaurant of it the other week, and we just went for a hot chocolate there. Although it's still quite humid, even though it's wet, it's humid, but we still had a hot chocolate. I still don't think Travis has totally worked out the vibe of restaurants. I guess because he grew up in the COVID era when we weren't really going out to restaurants. It's still a bit of a newer concept to him. He gets a bit restless at times. I think he thinks, why are we having nice things at a table, and why is he just having to sit there quietly? So he'll try and talk to me when he hears me talking. It's a funny boy. Okay, and then our final edgy bit. Don't know if I did today. Oh no, that's all right there. So yeah, I think this will be a great gift for friends. It doesn't take too long to make, which is always good. And yeah, it's got obviously the no stitch version if you want it, and then at this point I just sort of check that they are broadly lining up. I'm not super fussed if anything isn't quite exactly lining up, so I'll give that one a quick iron just to get nice crisp edges as much as possible, like that. And I was thinking you could also use that iron-on sort of adhesive if you wanted to as well, so like the steamer seam double-sided one, if you really wanted to. So at this point, yes, actually we will put our two pieces together. So because I'm going to be stitching this, I don't need to worry too much. The glue is just going to kind of hold it in place. So I can just sort of, sometimes one edge will be slightly, just depending how you've folded, you can just kind of line it up as best as you can. But don't get too hung up on it, unless you're after perfection. But this isn't for a quilt or anything. It's just a little handy project. So I'm pretty happy with that, I think. Just let that squidgy in a tiny bit more. And then at this point you need to work out which you want to be your outside piece and which one you want to be your inside piece. So you can just do a bit of an experiment and just have a little look at it and see, do you want the green and the red, or do you want it essentially like that? So I think I'll do it, although this one I have done that way, so I'm wondering, should I do my red in the centre of this one and have the green on the outside? Maybe I'll do it that way, just so it's a bit different. So at this point I'll just let it, and this is a good tip, it's good to just let your Yoo-hoo glue dry off a bit. You can also give it an iron and that will help it along. But what I'm thinking is I'll show you on one of the ones that I've already done another technique for stitching it together. So yeah, I'll just let that sit to the side and for the Yoo-hoo to sort of glue to set a little bit. So that one's there. We've got this one, and with this one, all I did was a running stitch around it. With this one, I haven't done any stitching yet, but I was thinking we could do some little stitching on the inside, because I'm also aware that when you get 4 layers of fabric like where these folds are, it's actually quite tricky to stitch through. That's why this one, I'm not going to demo this one for you because it is quite hard to get through the 4 layers. That's why I came up with this blanket stitch version, which I will demo for you as well. But I thought there's another option where we could stitch inside where the star is, but then do some little anchoring stitches up over where the points come down. So we'll come back to that. What I'll show you though, first of all, so that you actually get to see how the folds go into it, is with my template, my paper template, there's a technique you can do to work out where you need to make the folds for the little triangles to make a perfect star shape. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So basically have another one of your pentagon templates, or you can use the same piece of paper that you used to cut out your plastic. And what you're going to do is take each of your points of your pentagon up to each other and work your way around doing that. So let me just show you the method. So just work your way around folding like this. And that one there. And then this one here. Okay. Now, the place where your triangle will fold down is basically take that point where that line intersects and that is where your fold of your triangle will need to be. So to make your sort of center template like I have made here, so that's basically your center, and that's how you get your star shape. You're going to look at where each of those 2 lines intersect at the outside, and you're going to fold your template over. So again, work around, check where that one is. And again, this is just a guide, because depending on the thickness of your fabric, you might have to slightly adapt it when you're folding it down, but it just gives you the starting point. Try not to tear your paper like I did there. if you don't want to print it out twice, you can also just trace around your template as well. That's what I did. That's what I did with this other one. So you can check that it looks like a good star. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think it will, and you can also check it by making sure it still sort of meets up when you fold it over, which it does. So that is then a great little center template. Okay, so now with the template, what we're going to do is we're going to pop it onto our fabric, so it sits over the top of our fabric. We're going to hold it in place, and then we're going to use our friction marker again to put some markings across where the folds need to go. And again, because the folds will be coming down over this, won't be a problem, but also the friction marker is erasable with heat. So even if you made an error, it's not the end of the world. You can erase it. There we go. And so what we can now do is fold our pieces down. So you're just going to look where that fold mark is and we'll just put some quilt clips on just to hold it while we get it around, because then we'll just do some adjustments if we need to before we give it a quick iron. So those aren't quite meeting up, so I'm just going to bring this one down a smidgeroo more. Bring this one down a smidgeroo. Love a smidgeroo. So this is where we can just do a bit of adjustment if we need. So here I'll just get this just to go tiny bit over. And I don't worry if I'm seeing any little bits of the fabric coming through from one side. I'm not terribly fussed by that. So I reckon that's looking pretty good. So at this point, you can just put a little dob of glue to just hold these down. And then we can use a little bit of iron power as well. Just put our clips up there, out of the way. Just to get kind of holding in place for our next bit of stitching. And if you need to reposition anything, like that point looks like it could be just made a tiny bit pointier, and that one too actually, you can just reposition it with your fingers. The iron back in place. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think it's that star. That one actually now looks a little bit, when I say pretty happy, and then I see something that I think just needs a tiny adjustment, which might be just that one there. Maybe this one needs a tiny adjustment too. Just feel like that one needs to just come over a bit more that way. Let's just check our little center template. That should be about right, I think. Okay, so what we can do is just put that one aside, which will let it cool down, and I'll show you on this one what I am thinking in terms of the stitching into it as a different variation. So I'm going to take some of this nice fine green crochet cotton, and I'll take this needle And so as I mentioned, because it's 4 layers of fabric, and also with the Yoo-hoo, it can make it a little bit stiffer, and probably because this fabric's done some shrinking back as well. So what I'm first going to do is just secrete the end of my my thread into the sort of the crease of the fabric. So I'm going to leave the end sitting and hiding in here. So I haven't gone through to the back, and I'm just going to let the end of my thread secrete itself inside there. And then what I'm thinking I will do is put a stitch in through to the back so that we kind of anchor ourselves in place. And then I'm thinking I'll do a little stitch coming up, like a little starburst coming out from the star. And as I said, it is quite firm on this particular fabric. Maybe I was a bit more heavy-handed originally with the first glue. This was the first one I made. So it's a little bit harder to push through. And then we'll come back down to that spot. So we'll get a little starburst shape on the back as well. Oops, there we go. So that's going to hold that little fold down, and then what I'm thinking we will do is go around the inside here, just doing a nice little running stitch. And you can kind of, if you want, stack them on your needle so that you can do a couple at a time. And I'm just doing that just inside where the fold of the fabric is, and using a nice contrasting green. So I wonder up here, I think up here I might do one more stitch up there, and then I'm thinking it might be beneficial here to just do a little stitch either side again, just to secure the corners. So I'll just do one stitch to the side, maybe one stitch to the top. Just thinking how to get a nice little decorative detail while sort of anchoring this part of it. And I was thinking you could also put beads if it was going to be a decoration. You could put beads on at this point. So yeah, I've just done the 3 little anchoring stitches there, and then I'm going to come down again, just on the inside. So again, we can do some more little sort of stacking stitches if we want to. So I'm just sort of going back to front, like picking up the front of the fabric and the back of the fabric, so that we just get that nice little star detail on the back too with the stitches. Probably did that last stitch a little bit too big, so I'm just going to take that one out. And yeah, if you prefer doing the stabby form of stitching, which I'll show you as well, that is fine as well. You can sometimes get them a bit more precise with that, although sometimes you get into a flow. So this is just the stab stitch where you go front and then back to front. So you're just doing each individual stitch. Okay, and then when I get down to here, I'll do another little starburst sort of shape up. About how far was that? About there. You could always measure it, but I'm not precise like that. So just do it to about there, and I'll use my table to help me push through again, if I can actually get my needle to stay in. There we go, push through. Yeah, I think I must have been heavy-handed with the glue, because it's not usually this hard to push through. And then I'll continue my little stitches going up here. But again, if you're not into stitching, although you probably won't be watching my channel if you're not into stitching, but if you have come to it because you just want to a little craft idea, and again I've done that stitch too far apart, a little craft idea that is easy to do, then yeah, you can absolutely use a fabric glue and not do any stitches. Just want to keep these stitches a little bit closer together. Keep them a tiny bit more delicate. Seems to be dogs having a conversation in the street outside. And then at the top I'll just do that little thing of just putting some little stitches in to hold it down. Just in case, like if this probably as a decoration, it's not going to have that much wear and tear, but if it was being used as a little mug rug, then yeah, these stitches might just help to keep it secure. Okay, and then I'll pop back in and we'll continue our way down. And so yeah, you can just do individual if you don't want to do stabby stitches but don't want to sort of stack the stitches on a needle. You can do an in and out in a single go. Okay. And then again I will just pop out here. Do another little stitch up. Oops, what have I done there? I've let a knot on the back. That's okay. I think that will be fixable afterwards. What I'll do afterwards is I will tie a knot and then I'll go and hide that little knotty bit in the back. It won't be, actually I can show you what I'll do, I think, is I'll probably cut it and tie it. It's good to show you when things go unplanned. Obviously I could undo all the stitches I have done, but I'm not going to do that. And then with a needle, I got one that I can use. Let's just get them to the same end. With this needle, if I can. Oh no, that one's going to be too long. Let me grab another one that will hopefully fit them through the eye. I just need to put my needle so it's just in this back layer of fabric. And then I just need to get these to go through the eye. I'd only be able to get one of them, but that's okay. Just take this one in first and then I'll take the other one in separately. There we go. So what I'm doing is just taking it from a hole here, making sure it's not coming through to the front. So that one's trying to veer through to the front. Let me just get my needle lined up first of all. I'm just going to thread that through and then, so yeah, it's not coming through to the front, and then I'm going to just pop the ends through, and now that they're through I'm going to pull them a little bit tighter so that the ends will spring back into the fabric, and that way we've fixed up that little problem and we've hidden the ends away. So where was I up to? I was up to here, wasn't I? Yes, coming down to do this bit on the back. And then I'm going to continue on my way up here. So are you getting ready for Christmas? I know not everyone celebrates Christmas, or are you getting ready to celebrate a different holiday? Thanksgiving, obviously, for many folks. But yeah, I just can't believe how quickly Christmas is creeping up on us. So again, I'm just doing my 3 little way stitches up the top. But really, only your imagination will limit what sort of stitching you want to do on these. This is just a couple of little ideas. And as I say, I love how bobbly this slightly stretchy fabric went in the centre. It's a really interesting texture that it's given it. Almost like quilts when they kind of do a bit of shrinking in the washing process. Just going to make sure I'm a bit more centred before I do my stitch up. Got a piece of red on the back. And then coming back down there, and then we'll continue our stitches along. Okay, do a little stitch there. So I am just stitching through the red just to avoid having to stitch through all 4 layers. Yep, and then we'll begin our stitches back down. Hopefully I can get all the way around on this piece of thread. We shall see. Okay, and then down to here. And then I will come on up to here. And then continue our way around. It's actually nice and cool in my craft room, but I think I can feel a bit of humidity from outside starting to creep in. I haven't had to have the air conditioner or anything on today. Yesterday we had the whole upstairs cooled down, otherwise it just gets sweltering hot on a 37-degree day. It's like, yeah, I think I heard Dawn saying it's just like in Australia, our summer has just come and hit us, Dawn's also in Victoria, and yeah, it's just come with a vengeance. It kind of went, straight from. Oh, we did have a bit of spring weather, but not the normal sort of, spring that we have, and then just, into the heat of summer. Okay, and then we'll come down this final side. But again, this would look great with little seed stitches in the centre, or you could go around just doing lots of little running stitches on ever sort of declining size and get the whole sort of centre cantha stitched, or you could just do straight stitches across. Really is up to you. And I think it's fun that you can basically come up with different designs you want to do too. Okay, so that's now gone all the way around. You can probably barely see it. Has it gone all the way around? Why am I? Oh yes, no, it has. I just couldn't see the stitches in one part. Just couldn't see those stitches. And so I'll bring it through to the front. I'll put a little knot in here to hold it, and then I'll take my needle again back into the fabric, not bring it out at the back, so I'm just going to run it so that it's just between, the needle is between the front and the back fabric. Again, I will pull my needle through. I'll pull it up so it's a bit tighter. I'll trim it off, and you'll see that this little tail will sit back into the fabric. So there we go. That is that version. And it's still got that nice little star detail on the back with the little star bursts as well. If you want to put a hanger on, it's as simple as, you can potentially do it while you're doing your stitching around, but if, like me, you've done all your stitching around, you can put a little knot in the end of your fabric. Sorry, in the end of your thread, not in the end of your fabric, in the end of your thread, and then you can pop out through one corner. You can secrete your end, and in fact I'll probably trim this end off just so it's got less of a tail on it. Secrete that up there. In this case I'll probably just do a stitch over it just to hold it extra tight, and because there's already that stitch detail at the top, it's not a problem. And then you can make a loop of whatever size you want. So that size in this case, pull the end through, and then you can just do some anchoring stitches to hold it in place. So just a loop is all you really need, and making that whatever size you want, and then secreting your thread. Either you could secrete it down here, but I'll probably secrete it back into the red fabric. So making sure I'm not coming through to the back, I'll pull it through like that, hold it a bit tighter, trim it off, and it will spring back into the internal bits. So there's that one. Let's then come down to this one, and I'll show you how I do the blanket stitch around the outside. So because the Yoo-hoo glue does, as you can see, it doesn't form a super strong bond, it's going to help us out here. And so what colour do I want to use? I think I might use this green, which is a Semco Jewel cotton. It's a vintage one, and I might even get my bigger needle. That's my bigger needle. Will I use that one? I think I might. My javelin of a needle. So I'm going to put a knot in again to start. That was enough of a notch, particularly for a big needle. I'm just having a look if I've got another better size needle to use. Could use this one actually. Maybe I'll give the javelin a go, and then we'll see. So what I can do is just secrete my end inside one of these little points, or actually I can probably do it up here, because then we can come back and do the hanger maybe. So we can just secrete our end in there, tuck it down with our needle, and then we're going to do blanket stitch. So I'll come through from the back, so I've left just a little anchoring stitch on the back, and then we're going to work our way around doing a blanket stitch. So we're creating a little loop with each of our pops through. And bringing our two bits of fabric together in the process. And it creates a nice little decorative, almost like a little crocheted edge is how it kind of looks. So I think it has that really nice homemade look, a bit like those beautiful, that beautiful bunting that the lovely Sally from Dotty Bee is making at the moment. Oh, managed to catch a thread. Don't know where that thread's come from, probably from my big pile of orts when I was sending out a little just because happy package. Happy mail. Had 2 happy mails going out actually, which I'm sure you'll see soon. Now I'm going to do the method that I did on this one, where I first of all stitch around with the blanket stitch and then come back and do a anchoring stitch to anchor it to the back. But I'll just show you another alternative that's just come to mind while I'm here. If you did just want to then anchor it down, what you could do at this point is then put a little stitch through to the back. It is going to make it though harder to do your next edge of blanket stitch, so I do recommend you stick with the method that I'm going to show you. But that was just a little thought if you think the other method's a bit tedious. Or you could just do a running stitch around, but recognise that you are going to be stitching through multiple layers of fabric as well when you have it folded over and stitching through 4, whereas here we're only stitching through, well, in fact it's actually more because you've got the fabric folded double, so really I think with the other it's almost like stitching through 8 layers of fabric when it's folded over and folded over, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to just do is keep working my way around. I'll do a little bit more with you. I'll just show you something else up on the next corner. And then I'll probably pop the camera off just so you don't have to watch too much tedious stitching of the same thing. And then we'll come back when I do the next step. But let me just show you this corner first of all, and hopefully not a notch. What's going on here? Sometimes it does just get a little bit knotty. So here where I'm coming up to a point where it's going to ultimately be bending over, I just put in a slightly narrower blanket stitch, so just not coming as far in from the edge. And then at the corner up here, I'm just going to just catch the corner rather than coming in very far at all. And then here again I'll just do a narrower one where it's sort of got the bend in the fabric, and then I'll just continue along doing normal blanket stitch. So I'll basically just continue all the way around doing blanket stitch. When I come back to this side, I'll just turn it on before I do the last one, because I always catch the first blanket stitch just to kind of pull it up. So it sits right as well. So I'll see you back in a moment. Okay, so I said I would come back when I had got almost around here. So I'm just going to put in a little blanket stitch at the very top here, and then I'm going to come over, put my needle under the first stitch I did, and then I will just come through, and that will just help to anchor it in a nice position. So now we're all the way around. What I'm going to do now is just grab my template, either the one that we folded or my other one, whichever we want to use, and just sort of check that everything is still got its nice sort of foldy bendiness in it, and just check that I'm happy with how the star looks, which I am. And then I'm going to show you how I am going to do stitching, so I don't have to go through all the layers. I'm actually just going to stitch through the blanket stitch and then stitch through to the back. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to bring my needle down and then bring it up through the next blanket stitch, and then down and then up. And so that way I'm not having to go through what we worked out before was like 8 layers of fabric. I'm just going through the bottom layers, 2 layers of fabric, because I'm not having to go through the folded over bit either. So I'm just coming up in the gap where the blanket stitch is, and at the corner, because I want my blanket stitch to sit out a little bit, I'm just going to sort of skewer that, and I'll put an extra little stitch in here just to pull that out a bit. And because we had already, before we started doing the blanket stitching, put the dob of glue on and ironed it, we've got everything sitting really sort of nicely where we've got the fold already kind of built into the fabric. But if your folds had loosened up in the process, you could just sort of redo them and give it a quick iron. Or indeed, at this point, you can actually glue them down if you need to. And so what I'll show you is on the back, we're also getting a nice little pattern through doing this as well, which will form the star shape. I have another piece of thread threaded up on a needle as well, because we are going to run out of thread as we make our way around, but that's okay. We just had a lovely dinner. I paused to prepare dinner, and we had some prawn gyozas, some pork belly, rice, and then some broccoli, celery and zucchini stir-fried with chili oil and some cashews and a bit of garlic salt, and that was delicious. Sort of an Asian-inspired dinner. I think both Alex and I thought it was better than Chinese takeaway, although gyozas are more Japanese. Sometimes you can actually make your dinner quicker than you can waiting for a takeaway anyway, and it ends up being potentially healthier as well. Plus, you know, everything that's gone into it, no additives, no monosodium glutamate, MSG, which my body doesn't love MSG, so they have to check they don't hide it in sauces and things like that as well. So I might, while I'm up here, oh no, we might be able to get down the next side. We'll see how we go. I was just wondering if I needed to but we can always tie it off part way down anyway, if we need to. So just checking that my camera is orientated the right way, yes. So it's quite nice having the blanket stitches in, because even though they're not exactly even, it just kind of gives you a pattern to stitch in, which is handy. Let's put one there. And then I'll try and get up to the next corner and we can tie off our thread there. So yeah, I'm just coming through the base fabric, but not coming through these folded bits, just using the blanket stitches and the little loop that they've created to be the place where I bring my thread through. And it's definitely a lot easier than when on this one, on this one I tried to stitch through all the layers of fabric. So now I'm at the corner. What I'll do is I'll pop through at the corner, and then I'll just put a little knotting stitch in. Just make a knot by passing my needle back through, and then I'll just secrete the end down into the fold if I don't stab my finger with my massive javelin of a needle. So make the thread go down into here, pull it an extra little bit tighter so the thread jumps back, and there we go. Then I will grab my slightly less javelin-esque needle, and we can begin the next side. So I'll just, again, I might just secrete my knot in here, seeing we'll be folding it over anyway. Fold it into position. Oops, try not to catch my star. Catch a star, catch a shooting star. So yeah, definitely use one of these as a coaster even when it's not Christmas, because they're still nice colours to have together, green and red. Probably does have a bit of a Christmassy vibe to it. But but not solely Christmas. And I'm sure I'll make these in other colours because I think they would be lovely little gifts for friends as well. And not everyone does a red and green Christmas, do they? So let me know if you have a different colour scheme. Now I was just pulling that one out a tiny bit because the corner blanket stitch had just sort of hidden itself away a smidge. Sometimes the thread also tries to tie itself on. Oops. Good thing about this stitching is that it does help let you, if anything's got a bit sort of, there must have been like a little knot or something in there that sort of positioned it weirdly, but this stitching around lets us kind of fix up anything that might be a bit skewy. And as you can see, it doesn't take too long once you get to this stage to... So I think this would be a good sort of like an hour project maybe, if you did it from start to finish. But take your time. It's not a race. Be a good one just to, do in front of the TV or while you're listening to podcast or watching a bit of YouTube. Something nice about that sort of the repetition as you work your way around and just seeing it start to take shape. I just love that it comes from a simple shape. I'd seen someone with a sewing machine do one, but where they turn it inside out and all of that palaver, and they didn't have any of this beautiful hand stitching detail on it. So I decided to come up with my own version that was a slow stitched, hand stitched version. And I'm, really, really happy with it. Oops, I've still got to do that side. So it's always good to check the back because a couple of times when I did the other ones, I forgot that I actually still had one side to do. So I'm just going to try and drag this one. I think it's okay. Come on, don't knot on our final run. There we go. Come through. And then I'll show you how you can make the hanger with the piece of thread as you work your way around to avoid having to knot off and then come back on. Although obviously if you're just using this as a mug rug, then you wouldn't need the hanger on it. Although you could always put a hanger on, and then if they want to use it as a mug rug, they can, or they can use it as a decoration or have it hung up when they're not using it as a mug rug. Got my tails too long. Definitely not going to run short of thread. But you'll be amazed, like with the blanket stitch, how much thread you actually use. Okay, so now you can see it's put that beautiful star decoration on the back. And now we can just do a knot first of all, just so we've got a nice sort of secure finishing to the stitching. And then we can do a loop. And you could obviously put ribbon or something else on, but I think this will just be a really sweet little finishing. So I'll come through and then I'll just do another couple of little anchoring stitches. Let's just make sure my tail's not going to get stuck in there. And then I might come through from the back just to get this to sit nicely on the top. Just put a stitch through there, just so it sort of sits to the very top. Beautiful. I'm pretty happy with that. So let's just do another knot stitch and then we'll secrete our tail into the fabric. So I should be able to get it to secrete itself down here, I think. So make sure I'm not coming through to the front so you can see the needle's actually in between the two layers of fabric. And then I will pull it a little bit tighter, trim it off, and it will spring back into the fabric and stay there. So there you go. I think that's a pretty lovely little Christmas craft, and I think these are going to be just so beautiful to gift and to hang as decorations. So I think, yeah, some of these will be going as little gifts to my colleagues at work. In fact, we're going to have a little crafternoon, a little divisional picnic and a crafternoon where people can bring along their crafts, but I thought I'd bring a few little activities as well. So this might be a good little one also. So I will chat to you soon. I've definitely got so many more Christmas ideas, so stay tuned for those. And as always, a million other projects on the go. So thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.